Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Hello, I'm Craig Sale, Senior Editor with Piano Magazine and Director of Online Courses for the Francis Clark Center. And it gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity to have a conversation today with Leah Claiborne. Dr. Leah Claiborne promotes diversity in the arts by championing piano music by Black composers in her performances, research, and teaching. She has established the first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion column for American Music Teacher, where she regularly publishes articles providing resources and support to music educators across the country. Some recent recognitions include the Stecker and Horowitz Power of Innovation Award, Yamaha's 40 Under 40 Most Influential Music Educators in America, and the Emerging Artist Alumni Award presented by the University of Michigan School of Music, Theater, and Dance. And I'm sure it's just the beginning of many awards that are coming her way in her career. Dr. Claiborne serves as Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Francis Clark Center, and also serves as co-chair of the DEI track for NCKP, the Piano Conference. She recently released a 2-volume publication for elementary and intermediate level students called Expanding the Repertoire, Piano Music of Black Composers, published by Hal Leonard. She is the coordinator of keyboard studies at the University of the District of Columbia and also teaches history of African American music. So, welcome, Leah.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for this.
This is a wonderful opportunity. I've been looking forward to it. As I mentioned, your work has been, I was going to say extensive, but it's just impactful. And in recent years. And what I'm hoping we'll get to talk about a bit today is how this impact that you're actually at the beginning of having in our career, how that grew out of your experience from childhood through college and on. So let's start at the beginning.
Okay, let's do it.
With music and the piano in your childhood. How did that all get started for you?
Yeah, so I like to think about my Sunday mornings. Can I describe Sunday mornings for you? So my Sunday mornings, I would get dressed up. My mom would take my sister and I to church. And my favorite part of church was, one, getting dressed up. So I love getting dressed up. Getting dressed up, going to church, and I would find a woman, she was the woman of the church, where the children would say a Bible verse. And if you said it correctly, you got food. And then I would take the food into the sanctuary, which you really weren't supposed to do. And she was also the pianist. So I would try to sit as close to her, or at least as close to wherever the piano or the organ was going to be. And I just loved kind of sitting back and eating my prize and watching this woman bring this community together at the keyboard. And then when we went back home, when we would pull up to the driveway, the music in the house was blasting. And this was not typical. This is not typical. But it was my dad listening to jazz music. He would have his record player and he would just be listening to music. Now looking back, I really feel like that was my dad's sanctuary in a way, right?
Sure.
We went off to church and he created probably like these 4 hours of solitude for himself. And that's when, I put, our regular day clothes on and I run downstairs and I would just be listening with my dad and looking at the records. And what I loved so much was not only listening to these different artists like Thelonious Monk, Dizzy Gillespie, Nina Simone, but I loved learning about the social impact that these individuals were making with their music. That from a very early age was incredibly powerful to me. moving forward a little bit, I wanted to play piano because my sister was playing piano. I was a little one, so I was like, whatever Tiffany's doing, I want to do it too.
Right.
So that's how it all started. My dad really wanted to make sure we started off with classical music. My dad has a really great ear, a jazz player. Started reading later in life, so he wanted us to have a good foundation of like technique and theory, and so he found us a really beautiful teacher. Who ended up in many ways becoming like my godmother. She was just incredibly close to our family. So that's is that good for like the starting point?
I
That's
think
where my starting point
great,
was.
the starting point. So then your early piano instruction then, how did that fit? I mean, obviously it worked for you because it was your foundation,
right,
at the piano. How did that fit with that musical experience that you were just describing about the church and jazz? Did it feel like something separate from that, or did it connect?
You know, it really did feel separate. I didn't think about that. It did feel separate for a very long time, because couple reasons. So my first piano teacher name was Carol Krewalt, and she was this. At the time, I thought she was really, really tall. But that's the
Right.
the mindset. But imagine like this 5-year-old, and then looking at this towering, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman from Texas. And my first lesson, she picked me up. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh my, you're just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And that was just our starting point. There was so much love and support there. It was also very structured. The technique was, for a certain amount of time. Theory was a certain amount of time. Repertoire was a certain amount of time. So it was it was a pattern and a regimen, but I grew to really appreciate that. But it was still the diet, if you will, of the classics, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven. Really, really enjoyed that. But that was separate from the reason why I wanted to start piano in the first place, which was these jazz artists that were changing the world with their music. It really wasn't until I got into undergrad. Maybe even the beginning points of auditioning for undergrad that I started to think about, gosh, what am I doing in this place, in this field, right? I mean, what does someone who looks like me, what do I have to say, or what are people thinking I have to say that makes me feel like I belong in this space?
Yeah. I remember hearing you tell a story. And I'll just prompt you to tell it again, because it impacted me a great deal in terms of looking at our profession and what we provide students, and how, for myself, that's always come from a very white perspective. Anyway, and the story is about when you and your sister went to a piano competition. So could you tell that story? Would you be able to tell that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to tell that story, and I want to tell one other. It's very similar, but at different stages, and I think it's important. So my sister and I, we actually started kind of like as this duet and duo team. Again, whatever Tiffany's doing, let me do it too. And honestly, my favorite part of that was dressing up again, like finding, matching outfits, and going to competitions, doing these duets with her. And there's one, actually, I think this was our first, I know it was it was my first competition, which I was really glad to be doing it alongside her. She was older, 4 years older, so she had been doing it a bit more. And I really wanted, I wouldn't say I wasn't confident, but I'm glad that my first experience with entering competition was with her. So we did, maybe I don't say the organization, I'll just say the competition. Okay. I will do we did this competition, very well-known organization. And we really were the best ones, without a doubt. It was just the level of playing was so drastically different.
Okay.
And I remember sitting back and listening to everyone. I'll also say I'm very good at sitting back and listening and observing.
Yes.
I recognize that like within my own personality. And I was kind of evaluating and calculating, and that was kind of my first time where I was like, hey, I think we have something here. Like, this is feeling good, right? So, everyone finishes the competition, everyone's performing, and the judge comes out and congratulates everyone, and she starts giving out the awards. And she gave out an award to every duet team except my sister and I. We were the only ones who were not recognized. So she had like 3 first places, 4 second places, 5 third places, maybe like 7 honorable mentions. So everyone went up on stage. So just honestly, what I thought though was going to happen, I thought like, these are the grand prize winners. Like I thought that was happening, right? And that wasn't the case. It was just that was the end. And
wow.
Honestly, at that moment, I don't really think I understood what fully had happened. I'll get to that in a second. So what I do remember immediately after that was a group of parents who came up to my parents to apologize what had just happened. To say, we feel so embarrassed with what has happened. Also saying we don't know what to do, but we hope that this doesn't somehow prevent your children from continuing on.
Right.
So I'm kind of sitting back and looking and thinking about this. But 2 things were really important to me, which was when we got into the car, my parents did not shy away from explaining to us racism.
Right.
So in many ways, my first experience with racism was through this field of piano.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that really paints a different picture of my journey through this field.
Absolutely.
Right? The other part with that is we went to my cousin's house immediately after. They explained the situation to them. And what I remember is being celebrated to the max with family. And so that created probably a little bit of a divide in a world that I understood the world, or because my world was classical music, might not be fair because of like the color of my skin. And things that I have no control over. Right. But even so, if you have community or if you have family, that's where you can be celebrated. And
that, I think, is something that we know happened to Black composers in this country.
Right.
They hit walls and were ignored, but within their own community, celebrated.
That's where you find
that. The whole in readings that I've done recently about Florence Price.
Exactly.
It's like, there was this whole group of community. And like you say, there's this divide that exists. And I'll say from a white perspective, we don't know that. That's for myself.
Sure.
That's the part of discovery.
I see.
I think that in recent years I've had about white-centric.
Sure.
White centering within our profession.
Sure.
It's, we I should say that Leah is putting together a course for the center on diversity, equity, inclusion, and the phrase is looking at piano teaching through the lens of diversity, equity, inclusion. And I just want to mention that because most of us in this profession have looked at it through the lens of whiteness.
Sure.
And so your story here, and there's the other story I want to hear you say too. The thing that I want to remind our listeners is that you were a child,
Yeah.
and these are formative
Mm-hmm.
experiences with music.
Definitely.
And you're just going about your love,
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
passion.
Right.
And then something happens, and it's like, what is this about?
Yeah.
And it's just giving me pause. And then there's the other story about checking in at a competition.
Yes. So this was checking in at my undergrad at
That was
at
where that
Manhattan
was.
School of Music. Yes. And already, the feelings of excitement, but also nervousness and all of these things. And I remember, it wasn't a large building. It's still not a large building.
Yeah.
But trying to find a specific hall where the piano majors would gather together for orientation. Just say, this is our department. These are going to be your peers for the next 4 years. And I got there rather early. And when I looked to a person, I said, I don't know if I'm in the right place. I couldn't see signs. But I said, I'm looking for the piano gathering. I don't even think I used orientation.
Yeah.
And the response to me was, oh, this is not the jazz department, and proceeded to tell me where I could find that, which was happening at the same time, the orientation. But that first,
They didn't say that to white students.
I don't think so, right?
I
I don't think so.
doubt that.
I don't think
Right.
that was the first thing. And I have to say this too, because I think it talks about how I was prepared for these moments. That although that was that gut punch, right? So what do you do once you walk in at this space, right?
Right.
To say this is your first day or orientation for piano. And I remember something my mom always told me, which she often would tell me about churches or schools, that if you ever feel that you don't belong in a place, sit up front. Because then you don't get to see anything behind you. You're there for a reason. You're there for a purpose. So get the information that you came there to get. So I remember that moment. I said, you know what? I'm sitting up front today. And I just decided to continue with that, to just sit up front. You deserve to be there. I'm not thinking about what's happening behind me. I'm here for this information. So those were two, actually not just two, but those were pivotal points from early childhood. And then also when I'm saying to myself, this is something I really want to pursue. Those were definitely moments that impacted me. Yeah.
The second story, when I first heard you tell it, when I looked at it from the viewpoint of, obviously from your reaction to it, but I was thinking about the person who checked you in, and the system that we've created that made it so that their assumption would be that you were there for the jazz,
right?
And that really was the thing that really struck me to the core and made me really look at how do we as teachers change that so that music really is for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things then, of course, because you exposed me to lots of wonderful music by Black composers when she did our course on music by Black composers, was to look at that repertoire. And at that time in my career, I wasn't teaching full time anymore, but I was thinking about doing a program, and so it's like, okay, this is when I'm going to do that, because it's so important for just audiences to change their understanding of who's involved in music.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and I should also say that if I had been teaching children at the time, I know it would have impacted the material I gave to my students too.
Right.
So anyway, let's move now into, you go to college.
I go to college, yes.
And of course, there's that fabulous repertoire by Western European composers that we love and adore. When did you realize or discover there was something else
So I didn't realize until I got to grad school.
Wow.
Right. And when I say that, I realized for a really long time, there's a lot of shame with that recognition that
Wow.
I wasn't, it's not just that I wasn't exposed to the music by Black composers or diverse composers in general.
Right.
It's the fact that it wasn't on my radar to think about that. And that's the part where I had shame associated to it.
That's interesting because
Yeah.
I view it as the institution
Sure.
that it's their shame.
I'm a product of it.
You're a product of it.
Right.
But I totally understand what you're saying. You know, why wouldn't I know about
Right.
that?
And also because this is when it started to link together, because it also forced me to think about why I started this in the first place. Why I started this in the first place wasn't because I heard Mozart or Beethoven.
No.
The reason I started this is because my dad created a sanctuary and told me about the history of Black community influencing their society and their country through music. And somehow I got so far away, but also realizing quickly how closely linked it was. So when I went to grad school at University of Michigan, my pedagogy teacher, I didn't even know this for the longest time. Even he was my teacher, but he had his teacher was Arthur Cunningham, really fantastic Black composer. And we had a project, I think it was leveling music. Now I can't remember what the actual project was. But he had asked me if I had performed any music by Black composers or just kind of like regular conversation, innocent conversation. But my answer was just no. I mean, I couldn't even say Florence Price probably at the time. So that was a moment that I needed to sit with for a while. The questions of, well, why don't I know this? Why haven't I ever been exposed? Why haven't I thought to think about this or seek this repertoire out? So again, there was a lot on me, but that was the start of discovery. I came to him later and said, I would like to sort out my dissertation work with looking at Black composers because I know so little about this. And I just kind of very naive said, I just want to see what's out there. And then I quickly realized that I can't make a dissertation on Black piano music by Black composers. It was too much.
Yeah.
There was I'm saying too much in a good way, right? There was so much repertoire that, I mean, you would need an institute to compile all this. So what I wanted to do, I knew that my strengths, as I'm journeying through, was leveling. I really enjoyed understanding, looking at a student quickly, looking at their musical and technical abilities, and figuring out repertoire choices. I was really geeking out in that area. So I thought to myself, that's going to be fun for me to do. So how can I do that with Black composers? So that's what how I started categorizing my research. Level 1, level 10, using Jane McGraw's leveling system as the starting point, or also RCM, Maurice Henson. So using these tried and true leveling systems that all teachers know, and looking at how Black composers, how their music can fit alongside that same leveling system. Yeah.
I'm curious, this just popped in my head.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, at that time of discovery,
Yes.
of initially looking at this music, who were the bright, shining star composers that you went, oh my gosh?
Yeah, I would first off always Irene Britton Smith. Irene Britton Smith, also Blanche K. Thomas. These are names. First, Irene Britton Smith, because my first trip to the Center of Black Music Research here in Chicago, right? So it was I'm very lucky that it was so convenient to take a train ride from Michigan into that incredible library and resource. but very naive. Remember, first time ever being
Yeah.
in an archival library.
Right.
I went online and saw, their listing of the composers that they had, and I was looking through what composers who had piano music, right? So I saw this name, didn't know anything about it, and I asked, "Can I see the piano music, or the music of Irene Britton Smith?" And the first question was, "Well, what years?"
Oh, wow.
Right? And I was like, her years, right? Okay. But I mean, I say that because it really changed my understanding of archival libraries. One is that when they brought out these boxes, 22 boxes, by the way, I was listening to Nyaho and Susie talk about the Schoenberg Library and just boxes and boxes. That is so common with these composers.
Yeah.
So common. And I don't want to paint a picture that these are just 20 boxes of scores that are ready to go and finished, right? But it's 22 boxes of a life's work.
Right.
That is just sitting on the shelves. And in one way, you get this moment of, wow, look at all this incredible music. And then that same second later, it's also like, wow, look at this incredible music that has just been sitting here. And I always paint this analogy that sometimes archival libraries, they remind me of graveyards. That we have these markers of an individual's life. And once they've died, also a lot of times if they didn't have, if they weren't celebrated that much,
Right.
or if they didn't have any offspring or family members who were aware or knew what to do to take on the task of having the rights of their estates, so many, once they die, their music has died with them, and they're just staying in these libraries. So the story of Irene Britton Smith, I think her piano music is absolutely wonderful. And she was, maybe I kind of like fantasize about it a little bit, but she was like my driving force. Like, how many other Irene Britton Smiths are out there? Right. And then also Blanche K. Thomas, because again, it's always the story behind these composers that I love the most. And Blanche K. Thomas, one of the first Black women to have a degree at Juilliard for both composition and piano.
Oh, my goodness.
And she wanted to take African-American folk melodies like the spiritual. And she wanted to she did create an institution in Harlem for Black youth. So she's taking her own research and her own compositions and giving it to Black youth. And promoting it for the next generation.
Wow.
And that's something that really impacted me. I was already doing that, didn't realize I was doing that at Michigan. But to hear her story was really, really beautiful. So for me, the discovery, there's one aspect of the discovery of this music, but it's also this discovery of the storylines that aligned so much with what I was living and experiencing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which actually, what we were just mentioning about the school in Harlem brings up something that I wanted to talk to you about, because I know that while you were a graduate student at U of M, you created the Our Own Thing piano program along with Dr. Willis Patterson. And I think it's another wonderful aspect of the impact that you seek to have. I mean, there's diversity in repertoire and understanding that, but there's also equity.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you could talk about that, because it's a great example of equitable practice. And my understanding, it was you came up, you thought about this, and you went to John Ellis and said, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So, just kind of briefly describe why and what it was that you started, so that we have, because I think it's a great example of looking at what we do a different way.
Sure.
And how to be more equitable and inclusive in
Yeah.
our work.
Well, I first want to say I did not even know the term equitable practices
Oh.
when doing any of this. I didn't know most of these terms. I often think now about what did I need? What did Leah need at different stages
Sure.
of my life,
Right.
right? What did Leah need as a 5-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Leah how beautiful would it have been that I wasn't the only Black person in my studio.
Right.
That when I went to competitions, I saw another body of Black individuals on stage, right? So with that in mind, I feel that when I was at Michigan, I was the only Black student in piano, in the classical area,
Right.
which is often the case, right? For
Sure.
still today with many institutions. And with that being said, I need a community, right? I realized from day one of competition, there is going to be my journey with classical piano, but I need a community to feel like I had a place, that I could be celebrated, that I can kind of let my hair down and people see me for me and be comfortable with that. So really, I was creating something again that I needed. So I was already embedded into a community. There's this area called Ypsilanti, Michigan, not too far from Ann Arbor. And I was already embedded in that community because I was playing in churches, in Black churches. So with that being said, I already had a relationship with the Black community, but also the leaders, the community leaders, one being Willis Patterson, Dr. Patterson, who will forever and always just be the greatest, mentor in person, someone who I look up to. First Black dean at University of Michigan, just the most humble and also charismatic individual, straddles that so well. So he had this program and has this program called the Our Own Thing instructional program. And it was this idea where students in the community would come to a church. And then there would be teachers who would also come to the church and you teach them, whether it's cello, strings. The issue with keyboard, as we know, is you often only have 1 or 2 keyboards, or if you can put a couple in some spaces. Piano's hard. It's not as portable and work around. So I taught a couple of lessons, not many. I'm going to say it wasn't a lot because I said, this is a problem. Like we could make so much more impact here. So I went first to my advisor, John Ellis, who was not only he is the chair of pedagogy, but he was also perfectly positioned. I didn't know at the time that he was also dean, I think, of partnerships and community. I mean, he does so much at that school. I didn't even know that was part of his role. So I came to him and I said, hey, what would it be like if Saturdays, when our piano keyboard labs aren't being used, can we have the members of this community come into our space, which was also very important to me, that it wasn't the other way around. U of M going into, but the community coming in to University of Michigan. Can we have this? Can we have a program? It's so beautiful that he was just yes. It was yes, and let's figure it out along the way together. Instead of, I don't think so, but I'll come back to you. It was just yes. So I learned so much during that process. But also that first year, I think I had 7 students. Totally fine.
Yeah.
More than I could handle.
Right.
It's more than I can handle, especially I was figuring it out. And then every year after that, it started growing and started growing and started growing to the point we needed more teachers. What I love about that program, and I think is a testament to any program, is that when the creator or the person who started it can leave, and then the community says, this is something we still want to have happen. And that was the case. I left. Other teachers came in, and now I came back this year. It's a different program, and I say that in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
There are so many other students, whether they're theater majors or vocal majors, and they're teaching this their community and their youth, and they're creating this huge impact and beautiful relationship. So that's why I started it, and I also wanted to make sure that my work, this research, my dissertation work, that they had a understanding that there's so many other composers who look like them.
Yeah.
As they went through their starting fundamental years of piano.
Yeah. I think it's just a wonderful example of the role of music in community and the role of community in music.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
they're both. Yeah. Exactly.
It goes both ways, and that community being a diverse one. It's just a very important work. I wanted to touch on your new projects, your new goals.
New projects, new goals.
Because
Okay.
we know, what we know and love who you are now and what you've brought to our field. What are you looking for next?
We're doing this course that's highlighting pedagogy and pedagogy through this lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion, piano teaching specifically. And what I've learned so much from looking at the work of Susie Garcia or listening to how Artina is approaching repertoire, right? And even here at NCKP, listening to people like J.P. Murphy, who's designing a course at Oklahoma through this lens, right? I feel really inspired. And I also feel inspired to change a lot of my thought process. I always tell people the more information we have and know, we shouldn't hold on to old thoughts and viewpoints. So I'm constantly changing. And I like admitting that, right? I think we should be. I think we need to keep listening to conversations and sit with it for a while. I do feel like I had the unique position this year to serve on the planning committee for MTNA and the planning committee for NCKP. So truly, I almost had 1,000 proposals.
Wow.
Combined with what MTNA represented and what NCKP, 1,000 proposals of teachers across the country, and looking at what are some of the trends that we see.
Yes.
What I would love to start seeing more of, and what I recognize is there's definitely a shift and a divide happening where some people are still celebrating composers for the sake of the diversity that they contribute, which absolutely needs to happen, right? But I also see this other beautiful shift, which I'm wanting to continue to promote, which is that, okay, we're aware now, or we should be aware.
Right.
There's so much effort, resources, where you need to be aware, right? But now what do you do with that? I love seeing proposals. I love seeing people talk about the pedagogy behind certain things, right? I think, I don't want to name it because I don't want to say the wrong one, but I like when it's like the waltzes of Florence Price.
Yes.
Or I'm doing a lecture recital later today, uncovering the pedagogy behind the spiritual, right? So instead of saying this is a body of work by this composer, what about the composer? What are we offering pedagogically about what's unique about that?
Exactly.
So I love that mindset when we're discussing this, because I think it gets to the heart of the teacher. It gets to the heart of the student when they know, what am I gaining from this? And I really think that's how we start influencing. I don't like the word canon, but that's one way to do it. What else? I also just personally, I had a year where I had to say no to a lot of things. And then I had a year this year where I said yes. do a lot of things. So with both of those, like the pendulum went this way and then it went this way. And I think I'm entering into this next academic year with sorting through. So I don't have a concrete answer right now. Not to say I don't already have lots lined up that I'm saying, but I think it's a unique position to do what I love, which is to sit back and process.
Right.
And sit back and process doesn't mean I'm inactive, but it allows me to figure out where I'm aligning, where I'm aligning things.
Clearly, you're not static.
I hope not. Yeah, it doesn't feel that way. Yeah.
and as you were talking about that, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think societally, that's just the way we have to be too. You know, we make these new discoveries, and sometimes we get a little consumed looking at one end, but then it swings, and then integration happens. But I thought I remembered. Actually, it was at Francis Clark's memorial service when Richard Chronister was talking, and he said many of us might be inclined to think, what would Francis do? And he said the fact is, she never did the same thing every year. It always changed.
I love that.
And I think it's that.
I love that.
It's that kind of outlook on our work, where you're constantly reevaluating and reformulating.
Yeah.
So I totally understand you.
You're gonna make me get emotional, but I think that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And I think if it's done right, things take time.
Oh yeah.
Things take time, and I think we live in a society where if you're busy, you're worthy. And I try to not get to that, right? I want to make sure that what I'm doing is intentional and that there's meaning behind it.
Exactly.
And I'm not always going to be ready for what my next thing is until I've sat back and kind of did an evaluation process.
Right.
Or I sit back and I listen to my elders or people with more wisdom. Or, like there has to be moments of pause and evaluation before you take the next step.
Right.
So I'm celebrating, but I do feel I'm in a season of evaluating and taking a pause to see how I'm proceeding forward.
Right. Well, we ask every one of our guests the same question here, and that is, how does piano inspire you?
Ooh. Piano has allowed me to find my voice. To find my voice and to feel comfortable with whatever that voice is. And it's a voice that's constant, as we say, it's constantly changing. And as I change, the confidence to feel okay with that. So it's a space that I like to create as a teacher, right? That I'm always giving my students tools and resources to identify who they are, to find their voice, and then say, you have something so special that no one else can say.
Right.
So finding my voice and making sure I'm always doing that for the next generation inspires me to be me, the full me.
Well, thank you for inspiring this profession.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig.
It's wonderful to have this time with you and to get to know just more about the trajectory of your life, which is not a very long life yet. So there's
sometimes I feel real old.
Well, yeah.
I woke up today, yawned. I was like, I can't move. Yeah,
but no,
thank you.
I think it's just it's impactful work that you've done, and what I found today is it's a very inspiring story.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much, Craig.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.